A recent High Court ruling has confirmed what we've been saying on this channel for a very long time. Only that this thing which is being confirmed is very explosive. And it is the following. It is now official that the census in Kenya is not a real census. It is usually a political weapon. It is usually a political tool to prepare the government for future general elections. Ay, yeah. Now, the High Court in Garissa has cancelled, declared null and void the census results for the last census 2019 for Mandera, Wajir and Garissa counties. Now this has very far-reaching implications because all state operations are now forbidden for using the 2019 figures for any planning and especially for the allocation of resources. And for these three counties, they will now have to use 2009 census figures. Now, you know, one of the very odd, strange, bizarre things about the 2019 census is that the results told us that the populations of Mandera, Wajir and Garissa County had reduced. You can see the figures on your screens right now. Without any major catastrophe, any major tragedy in the area that would have taken lives, the population of those three counties, if we are to believe the 2019 census, reduced. You ulisikia wapi? Where did you imagine such a thing? Not even think. Where did you imagine such a thing? And therefore, after many years of fighting in court, the people of what we used to call the northern frontier districts during the colonial days have finally gotten justice, and the High Court has nullified those census results. With the benefit of hindsight, it is easy to see the motive behind the government fiddling with the census in this particular region. Because the truth is, the population in this particular region has actually grown in leaps and bounds, rather than reduced. But you see, it would have interfered with the elections. It would have made the elections much less predictable. Indeed, and this is going to shock most of us, if the correct figures had been posted and the correct voter registration had followed, this particular region is capable of deciding a president of Kenya. Oh yes, please, let's not be in denial. Let's stick to the facts on the ground. Let's stick to the truth, okay? Let's put our emotions aside. We can retrieve them later after we've made our analysis. Or better still, you can come up with your own very emotional analysis later, where you can release all the venom you want to release so that you feel better after that. You can do that later. But for now, let's stick to the facts without emotion, without fear or favor. I believe that's the reason why most of you regularly take a chunk out of your valuable time to take in this channel and our videos, and therefore will not let you down. Never ever. But to fully understand this game of the government playing around with the census, we have to go back in history. And let us start during the Moi era. Okay? Now when Moi took power, everybody knows he was paranoid about the Mount Kenya region. And therefore he made a number of deliberate steps to neutralize the political power of the Mount Kenya region. Please allow me to be as brief as possible. Okay? Brief but informative. Now what happened in the Rift Valley region is that many new constituencies sprang up all over the place. Pop, 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 like popcorn. Okay? The result, in parliament, we suddenly had very many members of parliament from the Rift Valley. And instantly what that meant is that if you wanted a bill passed in parliament, it was very difficult to make that happen without support from Rift Valley MPs, because there were so many. The Moi regime also played around with constituency borders. The quickest way to illustrate this is what happened in Eldoret. Now Eldoret has always had a very high population of Kenyans from the Mount Kenya region. And so to ensure that nobody from that region would win a parliamentary seat in Eldoret, we started seeing very funny shapes of constituencies, which were stretching very deep into the rural areas, and then it comes into town. It takes like a funny corner to avoid a very highly populated area, highly populated with folks from the Mount Kenya region, and then it takes an abnormal corner, stretches into town, and out again. And so the new numbers meant there would never again be a member of parliament who had roots in the Mount Kenya region. Census figures were also played around with to ensure that the real population of the Mount Kenya region was never reflected. And there was something else that happened, something very terrible, something that we're still suffering from to this very day. Okay? Some illicit brews that were not introduced anywhere else in Kenya suddenly popped up in the Mount Kenya region. And this alcohol completely destroyed, especially the young people of the Mount Kenya region. And deliberately so, very deliberate. In fact, there was some foreign assistance in this project. And so the result is, things got so bad in the Mount Kenya region, I'm sure all the Kenyans can remember this, that one day the women in the region held a very bizarre demonstration. They were protesting that they no longer had men, or at least they didn't have men fit to sire children. True story, very true and sad story. You know, Kenyans from other parts of the country usually hear about illicit brews in the Mount Kenya region, and especially in central Kenya, and they don't understand, because they start thinking about the illicit brews in their region, which are harmless. And so when they're told that alcohol has finished people in central Kenya, they don't understand. They have no idea what people are talking about. And this is no laughing matter, but many people made jokes out of it. One of the most memorable ones that I remember was by Paul Kalemba, Mad of Standard. I am sure some older Kenyans will remember this. He drew what was his idea of a solution to this problem. And in that hilarious cartoon, we saw busloads of lasses from central Kenya. By the way, they are very beautiful ladies from that region. We saw packed buses, arriving at the Mulembe Nation in western Kenya. Please, jijazie, this is a family channel. And so you can imagine my shock when recently I came across information that during the Moi era, there were some lasses imported into western Kenya, mainly from Central Province and also from Ukambani. And according to my information, which I believe is accurate, Luyas were told, yule mtu ana mke, aende achukue mke hapo kwa chief. Anybody who doesn't have a wife and may need a wife should go and see the chief. there are some possible candidates, there are some prospective candidates waiting for you there. You know, when some younger Kenyans hear something called serikali or government secrets, they don't really understand. They have no clue. There are a lot of very interesting, super fascinating secrets that I'm sure we're going to learn about one day in the very near future. Anyway, that was more for you, and fiddling with census figures and fiddling with other things, including constituency boundaries, with an election in mind, with political influence in mind. And now let's move to the Kibaki years, where even more interesting things happened. Okay? Now when Kibaki came into power, there was a lot of hope, in the eyes of most Kenyans. But this quickly evaporated. And those people in government who are very powerful and influential, quickly returned to the scene. And what happened this time is that the first thing they did was to try their best to undo what Moi did in the Central Province. But they went beyond that and greatly inflated the figures in Central Province, in the whole Central Province. And this was very visible in the 2009 census. And we need to take careful note of the fact that in some instances, they were working backwards. Let me explain. During the controversial 2007 presidential elections, Mwai Kibaki had to inflate Mount Kenya figures greatly to give himself a win. Now hold on a minute. You need some other information which comes even before that. Now in the run-up to the 2007 general elections and presidential elections, Mwai Kibaki and his cronies knew very well that they were in trouble. From a man called Raila Odinga and the massive following he seemed to have countrywide. And so they did something with the voters register. The whole idea was to inflate the number of votes coming from the Mount Kenya region. And so when Mwai Kibaki went into those elections, he was confident that he would win. And this explains a lot of the confidence he had until the very last minute, the 11th hour. Okay? When the government was forced to switch off the live transmission of results, which was being done by the Nation Group, the NTV, that at the time it was switched off, gave Raila Odinga a lead of over 1 million votes. It was just switched off. Now you know 1 million votes was impossible to come back from. And so in other words, Raila Odinga had already won those elections. But it was switched off so that they can do their fiddling, further fiddling with the election results to give Mwai Kibaki a slight win of about 200,000 votes. Now you know, exactly the same scenario, by the way, was repeated in 2022. There was already an algorithm in the system favoring Ruto. Now you'll forgive me, this is a very interesting aside. There was already something favoring Ruto. But Raila Odinga still won in 2022 because the stretch of his lead had greatly been underestimated. It was too big. So despite the rigging, Raila was still ahead. And that is why there was that delay as more fiddling took place at the Bomas of Kenya to ensure that Ruto would have a slight lead of, let us say together, about 200,000 votes. History always, and I mean always, repeats itself. But back to 2007, despite the fiddling then, Raila Odinga was still leading in 2007, and therefore NTV was switched off, the live transmission of results from constituencies. And then they had to do further fiddling to give Mwai Kibaki a win. And you know the rest of the story. But there's something else very important I need to point out. During the fiddling, there was a stroke of genius, that those rigging the elections injected into the whole project. While giving Kibaki a lead and a win in those elections, they did something else. They also inflated Raila Odinga's votes in Luo Nyanza. Now, why would they do that? I think the very clear answer comes in what South Africa's Judge Kriegler said after looking at those election results. He told the world that it was impossible to know who won those elections. Why? Because both sides rigged. And so the genius here was this. You give your candidate the lead, but then you also fiddle with the results of his opponent, so that somebody who comes later to look at those results will not be able to find a guilty party, will not be able to find one guilty party. And therefore the verdict will always be both sides rigged. And so in the 2009 census, it was very important to inflate the Mount Kenya figures so that many years later, if somebody else came to look at those results, those presidential election results, the first place they would look is the 2009 census to confirm the numbers. They would find that actually it's true. The Mount Kenya region has a very high population. And indeed it has a high population. But what they had here was an exaggeratedly high population. That's what happened. And of course these inflated figures served the government well in 2013 during those presidential elections. Now we come back to the 2019 census. And the handshake government, with good intentions, had a problem. And the problem was this. What do you think Kenyans would have said had the population of the Mount Kenya region been reduced in the 2019 census results? People would have said, no, there is something wrong here. And so the inflated figures still kicked in for the Mount Kenya region in the 2019 census. And they served Ruto well, because he won the presidency, courtesy of the Mount Kenya region, allegedly. But I'm sure you understand exactly what I mean. Fast forward to the present, 2025, and now it is time to correct the evil that was done in the Northern Frontier District. And please remember, the Northern Frontier District is a very vast region, and we know already in advance that the real population figures of that region will shock Kenyans. Followed by intensive voter registration, that region, the truth is, that region will be the new tyranny of numbers. That is the reality. And this new tyranny of numbers from the Northern Frontier District will favor who? I think it is rather obvious. It will favor the current regime. However, here's the good news. Who told you that the current regime will get to a general election in the year 2027? Who told you? Are you Almighty God? Do you know the future? Do you know tomorrow? I don't know the future. I don't know tomorrow. However, analyzing current politics, while remembering all we know about human nature, it is highly unlikely that this regime will get to a general election in the year 2027. And therefore, what this means is that the well-laid plans of bringing in the Northern Frontier District factor into elections will not work. At least it will not work in the way some people are envisaging. It won't. However, it will still have a huge impact in the election results. Any election we hold before then, it doesn't matter. That region will not have an impact. But any election we hold after 2026, that region will have a huge, very huge impact. And I have carefully taken into consideration the timelines involved in doing a new census and then following it up with the voter registration. It is very unlikely to happen before the tail end of the year 2026. Hey, what? In my opinion, this is an issue that is loaded, and in the near future I will do another video concerning the Somali community, the politics involved, which will shock you to your bones, because there is a lot, and that is something for you to look forward to on this channel. Please give me time, a week or two, to be able to produce that for you. Okay? Please be patient. Please allow me to remind you of our newly launched mini special reports. Very short, 3 to 4 minutes, but it contains all the highly sensitive information that was in the previously released special report, which you may have missed because of the cost. Now you can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 499, you'll be able to get this valuable information. Or for only $4, which you can pay via PayPal, details on your screen, you'll be able to get this mini special report. And the current one is on a controversy that has reemerged, and this is the very mysterious death of the immediate former CDF General Ogola. And in case you also want to be a member of my weekly intelligence briefings, you also have a unique opportunity now, because for only $14.99, you just add 1,000 bob, you'll be able to get both this mini special report and 1 year's full subscription to my weekly intelligence briefings. And that's not all. I will also send you all previous weekly intelligence briefings, a lot of highly sensitive information, and a lot of it has stood the test of time. In other words, what was talked about there has come to pass. And in other instances, what was talked about there is going to come to pass very, very shortly. Okay, so this is something very valuable. And indeed, there is a very sizzling weekly intelligence briefings for this week, which is in the works, which of course you'll also get. So please take full advantage of this opportunity. But of course, if that is too much for you, you can simply go for the mini special report. The choice is yours, absolutely. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.